From the creators of the original Cheat Sheet Rankings, this is the Fantasy Index Podcast. Brought to you by Fantasy Index, the original and best since 1987. Now your hosts, Luke Wilson and Colt Williams.
Welcome, everyone, to the Fantasy Football Index Podcast. Once again, episode 7 for us of the 2024 NFL season. This is just about our last episode, Colty, before the season opener next week. Can you believe it?
I can't believe football's right around the corner. I keep seeing Scott Hansen tweet out, like, 2 more weeks from this exact moment right here. Are you ready? And he just sounds so hyped when he's doing things. Love Red Zone, big Red Zone fan. And we have football. We were just talking about it. Thursday, Friday, Sunday, and Monday. If you watch college football, you have it for 5 days straight. So, yeah, it's a good time.
It's one of the best times of the year, for sure. Colt Williams, of course, back with me again after letting Ian Allen, our new intern, take a crack at it last week. That was mighty nice of you, Colt, to let the whippersnapper take a bite at the apple. I think it went okay. He didn't seem like he was too out of his element. So you
gotta tip your hat to one of the goats of the industry. So definitely
you do. Whenever he offers to let you tip your hat to him, yes.
Yeah.
Colt Williams back in the pilot seat with me. I'm Luke Wilson, of course. We are here tonight. Reason for the season. We are talking. So I don't know. I think we just confirmed it with each other before we started recording here, Colt, but it's prime draft time. Like this is it's deer hunting season, big time. So,
yeah, you've got multiple drafts coming up. I've got multiple drafts coming up. You've got an expert draft, which is pretty cool.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of home leagues, so I'm ready to crush them.
Right. And I'm sure a lot of you guys out there listening, Sunday is probably the peak of redraft season. I've got 2 drafts on Sunday alone myself. So anyway, with where ADP is at right now, we just wanted to give a quick heat check on kind of the most, I don't know about quite divisive guys, but the guys where you get a lot of different opinions, 2, 3, 4 different opinions on some of these guys we're going to be touching on tonight. So just to give you a quick nudge toward them or maybe away from them, based on how we're feeling about where they're going, what the price tag is, what the outlook is, what the ROI projects to be for those picks. Before that, though, Colt, why don't you give us a quick rundown? Obviously, also today was 53-man cutdown day league-wide. What do you feel like are 1, maybe 2 transactions, moves, what have you, things that resulted from today's business, NFL business, that you think are at least noteworthy?
Yeah, I would say the Browns backfield situation. Nick Chubb going on IR, and then having Deonta Foreman cut. Kind of a surprise cut maybe there because they just brought him in. I think it was one of the earlier transactions in the season. So that means it's Jerome Ford. And then we got Pierre Strong, who's getting some headway. He's got a rib injury. I don't know if you watched his touchdown run, but it landed like right on his ribs. I couldn't imagine it's not from that. But yeah, no, if you waited a while or if you haven't drafted yet, Jerome Ford, I mean, it's official with Nick Chubb. He was squatting 500 pounds. So it was kind of like, we're pretty confident he, is pretty healthy, but maybe not football healthy. So yeah, I mean, Jerome Ford is where I think his stocks just went up quite a bit.
Yeah, I was already pretty Jerome Ford positive, especially in full PPR. It kind of clicked into place for me a couple days ago. Jerome Ford is the AFC Rachaad White. Like he's probably not going to be terribly efficient between the tackles. The Browns had a decent offensive line. It was a bit worse than expected, but it was decent last year. And nobody was mistaking him for Nick Chubb as a runner, but he was able to catch 44 balls, I believe, and get 5 touchdowns out of it. And that was with some pretty substandard quarterback play, Joe Flacco's heroics aside. So yeah, I love Ford as I think he gives you Rachaad White value for a portion of the season. Obviously, the elephant in the room there is, when does Nick Chubb come back? Everyone's rooting for Nick Chubb, obviously. Yeah. Like if you have a soul, you're rooting for Nick Chubb. But I can't, my mind will only allow me to believe that a knee that was that violently remixed 11 months ago. And keep in mind, the last surgery was November 14th. He had to have 2 separate surgeries. The ACL repair was November 14th, 2023. He is 8 months out, guys. Like that, I can't get there. my gut right now remains, if he's on the roster on week 5, which, yes, they just restructured his roster bonus so that as long as he's active on the roster for 12 or more games, he gets the money. It's possible to me that the Browns want him to get the money, but they know he's not ready for any sort of significant workload. For where he's going right now, I mean, I've seen him in the 7th round. I can't get there personally, but I completely agree. I accept he's Nick Chubb. Anything is possible. He's not human, all that stuff. So, real quick with mine, this was not a cut per se. Obviously, there were a bunch of cuts, and I'll be putting out my weekly newsletter. This week's focus is going to be on the almost fantasy relevant transactions of the NFL's business side today. But Marshawn Lloyd, Packers running back, who has had differing amounts of buzz over the summer. It looks like he's going to wind up starting the year on the PUP list with I believe a hamstring. Injuries were an issue for him in college, so this is hopefully not him turning into Kendry Miller on us. But that, combined with, just came down the wire today, A.J. Dillon's season is done. And, buddy, if you weren't with me before on Josh Jacobs, you need to be now, because I think that the torpedoes are damned. It is Josh Jacobs on repeat for one of the best offenses in the league. And if you happen to get him at whatever, his early 3rd round ADP in the last few days, enjoy, because I think you've got pretty much an RB. He's going to have an RB8 or better finish. I can't imagine, barring catastrophe, I can't imagine him finishing worse than that. So, yeah, Josh Jacobs season for me. Big time.
I mean, if nothing else, he's getting 350 touches in total, and that's just pure volume. If you go 2 years back, he was the running back 1. If you go just 1 year back, he was a volume kind of guy. I don't think he eclipsed 1,000 yards, but he was getting all of the work and everything like that. But that was on this is the best offense he's ever played on. So the opportunity to get more goal line carries and just move down the field, is insurmountable. So, yeah, it's A.J. Dillon. Pour one out him, the quad god. But
Quadzilla.
But there he goes. Yeah, he's off.
All right, so real quick, we have a lot to say. We have guys that we want to talk about, and we're probably going to talk about them at length. Part 1 of this week's 2-part podcast is going to be our quarterback and running back ADP checks. Colt, let's fire away. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So let's kick it off with some quarterbacks. Our first quarterback, who we have some controversy about, we're talking about guys, and you kind of hit on it, and I think you said it perfectly. It's like, are they going too high? Are they going too low? Are they just right? But there's some ambiguity about it. What's really going on with this player? So we're going to kick it off with the quarterback 6, Anthony Richardson. He's going in the middle of the 5th round. He's being drafted near C.J. Stroud and Joe Burrow. I personally am not in. It's just a very high price tag. We'll get onto one of these other players, and it kind of sold me on the other player. But the accuracy issues here in the preseason has been something, and just watching how he throws the ball is a little. This is more of a film take, but I like other guys later who could probably throw 30 touchdowns, like Purdy or Goff or Tua. All these guys are going much later. I think they're a little safer. And I mean, middle of the 5th round, you're missing out on a top tier wide receiver or maybe even running back at that stage. So yeah, I am out on Anthony Richardson, but I hope he does good things for fantasy. And I think on a per game basis, he will.
So you don't like Anthony Richardson because he can't throw for 30 touchdowns?
No, it's not that. Like I said, we'll talk about the rushing quarterback here in a moment. Spoiler alert: we've got Jayden Daniels up on the board, and he's going in the middle of the 9th round, so multi-round discount.
Top of your head, because I made sure not to ask you before we started recording. If you had to guess, what are the most passing touchdowns Jalen Hurts has ever had in a season before?
Jalen Hurts, probably 24.
Very close. 23.
23. Okay.
23. Okay. So that's pretty much my pitch with Hurts. And I mean, with Richardson. And to be clear, when we're talking about Anthony Richardson or any quarterback like him, any guy who 4,000 passing yards, that's not a for sure thing. Scoring matters. A lot of leagues have 0.04 points per passing yard. A lot of leagues have 0.05. So if you're in 0.05 points per passing yard, yeah, you want to move Anthony Richardson down a peg for sure. But in the leagues, the sleeper platform default now is 0.04 points per passing yard, which puts more juice into quarterback rushing stats. So Lamar Jackson, I think people still have Lamar Jackson as something like the golden standard after Jalen Hurts as far as like rushing value add quarterbacks. Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts, and then Lamar Jackson next up. Lamar Jackson does not run for touchdowns anymore, guys. It's just not a thing. There's no reason that's going to become a thing again. Derrick Henry's in town. Put that out of your minds. So between where Lamar is going, he's pretty solidly like the QB4 right now. CJ Stroud, I mean, he might sleaze ball his way for 4 or 5 touchdowns. You can't set your clock by it. The next guy who could possibly make a run at Josh Allen in terms of fantasy points per game, for me, it's Anthony Richardson. Like, I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but for where he's going in the board, if you want to take a shot at trying to neutralize the Josh Allen owner in your league at that position, and there are leagues out there where that very much matters, Richardson's my guy to do it. I think that he probably is going to get in the end zone on the ground 8 times.
Yeah.
It could even be 10. I mean, that would not surprise me at all. And then again, look at Jalen Hurts. He only needs to give you 20 passing touchdowns to get you all the way there, to get you to the 30 touchdowns that are, weighted toward the rushing touchdowns. In 6-point passing touchdowns, 0.05 yard point leagues, you gotta knock him down a bit. But yeah, I like Richardson. Full context, I did just take him just a smidge back of book in my main most venomously competitive redraft league, so I need it, Colt.
Yeah,
I need it real bad.
Are you talking yourself? You need copium. You just kind of talking yourself into it.
LeVar Ball. I'm gonna speak it into existence.
Yeah,
that's what I'm doing. But
no, rushing.
It's not for the faint of heart. I know.
Yeah, rushing is a cheat code for fantasy quarterbacks. We already know this. I was kind of coaching my buddy through his very first fantasy draft, and he was like, man, I really like Dak here. And I was like, dude, Kyler is still a little bit later. Jayden Daniels is still a little bit later. Like, these are – and I like Dak as much as the next person, but it was like 3 or 4 rounds before we would get these other guys. And yeah, so that was kind of my thing there. And this was before the CD before CeeDee Lamb signed his huge wide receiver contract. So, yeah, I guess a little breaking news there. He signed.
Some guy named Lamb signed a contract. Who cares?
Yeah. So that I was like, with not sure if he was going to be there, that, let's not risk it. So, yeah, I think we are a little different on Richardson, but for the most part,
fair.
I'm in if it was just a little bit later, like quarterback 6, middle of the 5th round. I like a lot of players around there. And
just to touch on that real quick, like we're both late quarterback to the core. Like we want to give up those 30 points from projected to take the guy 4, 5, 6 rounds later. That's not the argument for Richardson. The argument is that you look at the projection for Richardson and you go, if he beats that, he's gonna blow by that, and you gotta kind of believe. But yeah, I mean, even if you do take him at market, 5th, 6th round, whatever, quarterbacks, you can get good quarterbacks late. I mean, get Matt Stafford, get Jared Goff, get a real guy who, like, if Richardson cranks his shoulder again or falls on his face, whatever. I mean, like you said, accuracy concern issues. I'm not that scared, but I understand. He's not proven as a passer for sure. Mm-hmm. Definitely, I mean, even I got Bo Nix, which is, I mean, that's still underinvesting. But yeah, you want to have a second quarterback that doesn't scare the daylights out of you there for sure. All right, take us on to our next fella here, Colt. Jordan Love.
Yeah, we were just talking about Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs and, what was going on there. So he's going off the board as the quarterback 9. That's the end of the 6th round. He's going next to Kyler Murray, who I love a lot. I think we're both really big on Kyler Murray. Dak Prescott, I already expressed my feelings for him. It's again, another player. It's just a little too rich for me. Quarterback 9, I think, is something he could definitely beat. I don't know what he was last year off the top of my head, but I could see him as I think he was one of like just a few quarterbacks that threw over 30 touchdowns. So he has that in his range of outcomes, and that was in his very first starting season, although it was like his 4th or 5th year. I like, again, I just like the Brock Purdy's, the Tuas, the Jared Goffs, all going multiple rounds later in the 9th, 10th, 11th. So I'm just going to wait and get one of those guys. But if you have conviction on Jordan Love and you think he's, the next up and coming thing, they have tons of weapons, then by all means draft him. But quarterback 9's a little rich.
So that's fair. And again, I'm with you. I'm a late quarterback defender to my core. Anthony Richardson as quarterback 6 is already getting kind of late. To if you want to, depending on how fine you want to cut it, in a 10-team league, for sure. Like, do you really want to go much later than that in a 10-team league? Probably not. Jordan Richardson's the quarterback 9 by ADP. That's late. I mean, that is late. Mm-hmm. So, is it as late as you could go and still get top 15 value? No, but Love is another guy, kind of like Stroud, where to take him at market, you're taking a stab that this guy is gonna hit his best stretch of football from the last season is gonna convey. He's gonna make that. He's gonna build on that going into this season. With these receivers, man, I have a hard time seeing him flop. He got 36 total touchdowns last year. He didn't even turn it on until the Steelers game, week 9. So I have a hard time not loving him. But I know the quarterbacks that we're about to talk about that are coming up behind him. So that is a compelling argument. Take us to it, Colt.
But yeah, I mean, even Jordan Love. I'm looking at the beginning of the schedule. It's not something you're scared of. So he should get off to a hot start. He ended last year as the quarterback 5, and so yeah, I mean, it's just the other guys I like a little bit more. And if you buy him at the quarterback 9, I feel like, especially in the the end of the 6th round, it's kind of like Trevor Lawrence last year, where you were bought in. You spent significant draft capital for Trevor Lawrence, and it was like he was not winning you weeks until way later in the season when he probably wasn't on your team. He was on waivers or you've traded him at that point. So yeah, that's just where I kind of get to. But looking at the beginning of the season, it looks like it should be a strong start. I mean, you got Philadelphia, Indianapolis, Tennessee, Minnesota. So some games there that you could definitely throw up some points. But we're talking about this next guy because I got to get my hands on him in every league that I'm in, especially one quarterback. I've seen him everywhere. So Jayden Daniels, quarterback 12. He's going in the middle of the 9th round, so going just late enough where I'm like, oh, let me take a shot at that. We also have Caleb Williams. He's going as the quarterback 15, also in the middle of the 9th round. They're all like kind of bunched up right there. You got Brock Purdy, Tua, Goff, all in that same spot. But Jayden Daniels is the one I really want to talk about. So Jayden Daniels, you're talking about these rushing quarterbacks. You're talking about A-Rich. His Vegas rushing prop on the season, 525 yards. I think he smashes that. Even if he doesn't, let's say I did a little study. I looked since 2006. There have been 4 rookie quarterbacks drafted in the 1st round who hit 450 rushing yards, which is a little bit less than his Vegas projected prop. All 4 of them ended up being a top 12 quarterback. It was Cam Newton, Kyler Murray, RG3, and Vince Young. None of them threw for over 21 touchdowns, just as you were kind of saying with Jalen Hurts. It's a cheat code, right? None of them threw for over 21 touchdowns. It's funny, Vince Young, he was actually the worst of the 4. He threw for 2,200 yards, 12 touchdowns,
13 picks,
13 interceptions, and had 12 fumbles. But he ran the ball for 550 yards and 7 touchdowns. It's just the benefit of having a rushing quarterback in fantasy. Daniels can easily return value as the quarterback 12. I even went a little bit further. I'm like, man, Daniels is like, he's a veteran at this point. Just like Bo Nix, like tons of games throughout college, coming in, with more than 4 years, more than 3 years under his belt. So I looked at I used that same rushing threshold, the 450 rushing yards, but I expanded it to include in veteran players who have played 0 to 3 seasons. So not just the rookie quarterbacks. It increases the quarterbacks from 4 to 17 total quarterbacks. All but one was the quarterback 12 or better. I mean, it is an absolute cheat code. You've got 16 of them, 16 of the 17, giving you what you drafted them to be or better. A lot of them having number 1 overall finishes. So, yeah, I mean, Jayden Daniels is just somebody I'm smashing at that ADP. You'll probably have to grab him earlier. A lot of leagues that I have been in, I've wanted him and I've waited for him to come around, but everybody knows that like his potential. So you got to get him a little bit earlier.
So there's a lot of guys that are big believers in the Jayden Daniels strat. A lot of guys, smart guys that I respect, guys that have beat me in fantasy. So I'm not knocking it that much. But there is undeniably, we all fall victim to it on occasion. The shiny new toy, the Elmo, the it toy of the Christmas of the holiday season. Jayden Daniels is one of them for sure. He's the shiny new thing, fresh off the assembly line, has all the latest tech and bells and whistles and VORP rushing over whatever.
Yeah.
When we zoom out for a second and hit pause on his And One mixtape. his number one receiver is Terry McLaurin, which is not terrible. It's not elite, but it's not a problem. After that, it is. It just is. Like, they just
Ben
shipped.
Sennett.
What?
Ben Sennett, baby.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Zach Ertz.
Yeah, a rookie tight end from Kansas that's buried behind Zach Ertz. They just shipped Dotson out of town. Obviously, the wide receiver 2 battle is between De'Ami Brown, Olamide Zacchaeus, and Christian McCaffrey's little brother. Like, he probably has the receivers that are in the bottom 5 in the league right now. Probably. I mean, unless you believe that Austin Eckler is back to 2022 form, which we'll get to that in a bit. I know you don't.
Yeah.
He has no path to throwing for more than 3,600 yards. It doesn't exist. They don't want him to, which he doesn't need to. I mean, like you said, it's about the rushing value add. He has to score touchdowns. He has to score touchdowns unless you want to take him at quarterback 12 and have him be the quarterback 12. I don't take the quarterback 12 because I want the quarterback 12. I take the quarterback 12 because I think he's going to be the quarterback 7, quarterback 6. It's not impossible, but look at who he's going up against. Like, who is going to fail? And sure, some random's going to happen with one of the top quarterbacks, 2, 3. I don't want to predicate that pick, my whole quarterback strategy on, well, it happened last year. All the quarterbacks got hurt. It's going to happen again. Why is it? When is matters too. So, I mean, I get it, but what it comes down to for me is, like, you have to sell me that he's going to score touchdowns on the ground. Is he? I mean, I don't know, Colt. Rushing yards are great, but Lamar gets rushing yards.
Yeah, I think the rushing yards are the most important because I don't think Lamar's had a season over 5 or 7 rushing touchdowns, but just going back to, like, the Vince Young numbers, I mean, 2,200 yards passing, 12 passing touchdowns, 7 touchdowns on the ground. Like, 7 touchdowns on the ground is definitely in the cards for Jayden Daniels. 550 rushing yards, like, that's not a ton.
He'll just destroy that.
I mean, I'm sure you've watched the Florida tape, him versus Florida here last year. I mean, he tore him up. But he needs to slide a little bit more, maybe not drop his shoulder when he's going out of bounds. Because there's sometimes, even in preseason, I was like, hey, man, what are we doing here?
Terry McLaurin, probably, considering the way that offense ran, Terry McLaurin probably would have been the wide receiver 3 for Jayden Daniels last year. I know that's a shocking thing to say, but considering the way the LSU passing offense worked last year, which is just, hey, let's just throw it past the entire defense every time. What do you say? And McLaurin's no slouch. Okay, he's not the wide receiver 3, but he certainly is going to be competing for targets with Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. there last year. It's a big step back for him in terms of the talent edge, which now is non-existent, over the defenses that they're playing against. Jayden Daniels hasn't had to deal with cover 3 in his face 90% of the snaps before, ever. No college team would dream of doing that to him when he's at LSU. It's a different ball game now, obviously. And, I mean, the passing numbers can hurt. Like, the pass numbers could be bad enough. Like, yeah, sure, like, we don't care about the pass numbers. No, we do. Below a certain point, actually, we very much do. Jalen Hurts in 2021, was it? Like, he was good, but there were some games where it was rough, where, like, he went at halftime 50 passing yards, 45 a couple times. Like, let's not forget, like, that's in range here. That really is in range. So I'm fine with it because the price is great, but you better turn around and take a quarterback in the next 2 rounds, which is fine. I mean, at that part of the draft, you're totally fine to do that, but you better, don't get too cute. So that's how I feel about it. But I mean,
So are you in or are you out? I'm curious.
So I know I just stomped all over it. That was more of a PSA. I'm in because he's going to run for 800, 900 yards. I mean, that's, of course he is. I really am not sure he's going to run for more than 6 touchdowns. I'm really not. I believe in Brian Robertson. We'll get to the other guy in a little bit. I believe that the Commanders are going to #establish it big time because they have to. Like, it's the only way to be respectable, I believe. But Daniels will be a big part of that. He'll run around for sure, get his bell rung a few times, I'm guessing. Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, we're saying the same things with different degrees of cranky old man in our hearts.
No, you're all good. You were mentioning you don't draft him to be the quarterback 12. Like I said, there were a lot that had a number 1 overall finish, and then some obviously that had a 12 finish. The average is the quarterback 7. So, okay. I mean, if you get quarterback 7 with that, that's what you were kind of saying. Like you're pretty happy there.
That's money.
I don't know if he has number 1 overall finish. Certainly not. But, that's kind of what we're looking at. Let's go on to some of the running backs.
Yes.
Well, just real quick on Caleb Williams. Our quarterback 15, are you kind of in there? It's the same place where you're getting Jayden Daniels and these veterans. Just a quick glance at it. I like a lot of the other guys better. I love Caleb Williams. Love what I've seen in preseason. Amazing weapons. Again, another guy who you need to have about 4,000 passing yards and 30 touchdowns to really get it done. His props are way lower than that.
I think he hits the over on both those, passing yards, passing touchdowns. I think he's going to get 28 plus passing touchdowns. I do. I think he is going to throw over 4,000 yards. I think he's going to run for 6 to 8 touchdowns. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty in. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a real quick one.
DeAndre Swift is competing with this man in the red zone. I don't know.
Jayden Daniels or Caleb Williams?
Caleb Williams for me, for sure. Yeah,
in redraft
for sure, 100%. The receivers are better. He is a better thrower of the football.
The receivers are better. Yeah,
he is a more pro-ready thrower of the football. Yeah, he's going to eat some dumb sacks. My fantasy leagues, they don't care about eating sacks. That's not a scoring stat for us.
Let me clip that real quick.
Eating sacks. All right. Yeah, I mean, it's actually not a dissimilar argument to Richardson, where I think, how is he not going to be involved in 27, 28 plus touchdowns? Yeah. I don't see like the Bears offense is this good. That means Caleb Williams is this good. If it's this good, it means he's going to be involved and he's going to have his finger in the pot all the time. Even Richardson, like Jonathan Taylor, could be a real nuisance to him when it comes to running it in the green zone. Caleb Williams doesn't even have that problem. See, I love Caleb. Which, hey, yes, sure, you still want to go get Goff, Tua, whatever. You want to get some sort of insurance policy because it's the Bears. This has never worked before. Why would it start now? I believe he's the curse breaker. I do.
Do we have a water bet for this season?
What's the bet?
Better fantasy finish. Caleb Williams versus Jayden Daniels.
What scoring?
4-point passing touchdown.
Mm-hmm. Passing yardage. 0.04, 0.05?
0.04, yeah.
I'll pass on that for now. It's disadvantageous scoring, you know it.
No, I know. That's why I had to put it in my field. All right, let's run on to running backs here. I've got some good stuff here. Let's start it off with Kyren Williams.
We got the spice coming. Yeah.
The talk of the town. He's going off the board as the running back 8. I had it different here in my doc, but he's going off the board as the running back 8 right now. That's the early second-round pick. He's going next to other running backs like, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Travis Etienne, Derrick Henry, a lot of familiar names.
Ahead of Henry.
That we've seen here. I just read your note in here. It says, too scared. You're not in on the Kyren Williams hype.
You take us through the stats, because you got a lot of nice stats. I see it. I want to hear them. I'm not going to refute the stats. The stats are irrefutable, so let's go.
All right, so I'll go ahead and go with it. Kyren Williams, he averaged 19.9 average PPR points last season. So for context,
won me a league.
Yeah, won me one too. For context, that was second among running backs last year, even ahead of the running back 2, Raheem Mostert. CMC was the only one that averaged more points per game at 22.4. So I looked at it since 2015. There were 14 players who hit 19 half PPR points per game. It's a lot of repeat names, but you got Christian McCaffrey 4 times, which, God, so many times. Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry hit it multiple times. Zeke multiple times. Dalvin Cook multiple times. Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley, and Alvin Kamara. All those guys hit it at least twice. Then you have some other names who hit it. You got Saquon Barkley, who hit 16.8 points per game. You would still be happy with that, because even at the running back 8, your running back 8 on an average year is 14 points per game. So you would still be happy with that. It's not, that 19 that you had just had, and he's not one of the repeats, but 16.8, it's not going to kill you or your team. Melvin Gordon, he had 13.3 points per game. Again, like I said, it's not hitting that 19-point threshold, but 14 is about where you want to be for running back 8. That was also the Austin Eckler breakout year. I know what you could say. Blake Corum, hey, does he break out a little bit? I'm not sure. That's TBD. Let's go on through a few more names here. Kareem Hunt missed half the season due to the off-the-field issues. I think that was the 2019 season. 9.2 points per game. James Conner, the following season, had 12.9 points per game. Not killing you, but not great. David Johnson, season-ending IR. Jonathan Taylor, 11 points per game the next year. And Austin Eckler just barely missed the 19 points per game benchmark. He had 18.8 the next year. So half of them ended up doing it again in their career. And then some of them just either barely missed it or hit what would be a running back 8 finish mark, as opposed to, that 19 points per game, which is like a running back 1 or 2 finish on the end of the season. So that's my compelling argument for Kyren Williams. Now, you go ahead and feel free to tell me why you're too scared to draft him at the running back 8.
Big shout out, by the way, to Clay in Dallas, Texas, for dropping Kyren Williams in that league with me last year, the week before he came back from the IR. Big ups to you, Pops. Big ups to you, playa. All right, yeah, no, Kyren rubbing elbows with the gods, clearly. I mean, CMC, Derrick Henry, prime Lev Bell, prime Todd Gurley. What's not to like here? Colt, if you had to guess, where does Kyren's combine performance fall in amongst the median numbers for any of those guys? It's bad. Let me just save you. Let's save some time on the pod.
I mean, he's done it on the NFL field, so why would we care about the combine?
All right, so before we started recording, you grimaced once you realized I didn't already know this. But didn't you divulge to me before we started, Colt, the Rams are planning for Kyren Williams to be their primary punt returner and their primary running back to start the 2024 NFL season. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, I mean, Tyreek Hill did some punt returning work for a little while.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just indicative of a number 1 future finish. So,
and have you heard the latest Twitter psychopath ramblings, murmurings about Jordan Whittington possibly seeing some involvement in the run game as a jet sweep artist?
I mean, they did that previously with Robert Woods and stuff like that. Kind of makes sense. I mean, Velus Jones Jr., if you look at what he just did, I mean, that guy's about 35 years old. He's out there doing that too.
Okay, so Velus Jones is your defense case for Kyren Williams here. Okay, so we're talking about a guy. I'm just gonna hey, you're right, combine measurements and everything. But here's Kyren's 5'9" flat, 194 pounds. He's second percentile in arm length, third percentile in wingspan.
5'9" flat.
4.65 40-yard dash. That's just about Alexander Madison territory. Now, obviously, Kyren Williams does not rely on any of this. Kyren Williams relies on other things to be a great player. But that, combined with the Sean McVay factor, I'm not coming off of this hill anytime soon. Sean McVay is very unpredictable. I'm backing away from Puka Nakua's first-round price, too. Why? Because more because of Cooper Kupp. But Sean McVay is too unpredictable. He will change up on his players and the fantasy owners of those players as gleefully, with as little hesitation as any other coach in the NFL right now. That is what he has shown us, Colt, and that is why I'm scared on Kyren. Yeah, I mean, can he win you the league? Yes, if Sean McVay lets him do that for you. That's the thing. Jahmyr Gibbs, we don't have to worry about this with Jahmyr Gibbs. We don't have to worry about it with Saquon Barkley or Etienne. Like, they don't have, Howard Hughes types running the offense. The Rams do. And McVay's great at what he does, but it doesn't instill a lot of confidence for me investing first, second round draft capital in leagues where I want security, floor, safety with those picks. I just don't believe that Kyren provides it. I can't come around on that, and I won't.
What if I told you Todd Gurley had his best 2 seasons as Sean McVay's first 2 seasons as a head coach? Also,
for sure,
we're talking about 40 times here. Kareem Hunt made the list, and he runs a 4.6 40. I mean, he was also the person who averaged the lowest points per game the following season after hitting 19 yards per game. But again, that was off the field.
What
issues.
Years were those performances by Gurley, Colt? 2018, 2019?
17 and 18.
17, 18? Would those also be the last 2 years where a Rams running back repeated as the leading runner in that Rams backfield?
I mean, I don't know if that guy has knees anymore.
It would. I already know it would. So, I mean, whatever. That's even for me. That's getting pretty tinfoil hattish. It's implying that Todd Gurley broke Sean McVay's heart and he just can't ever find his way to loving a running back again. I'm not saying it's strictly impossible, but again, like, yes, Kyren was awesome last year. He storms back to life. The Rams offense came back to life. I mean, the Rams offense was easily the best version of itself once Kyren Williams was back on the field. Weirdly, Matt Stafford's passing touchdowns exploded once Kyren Williams was back, and Kyren didn't catch that many. I think he caught like 2 or 3. So, I'm not saying it can't work. I'm not saying it won't work. The odds are that it will. The odds are not high enough for me. This is a risk management position here. There is a 20% chance that something weird is going to happen with Kyren that does not involve injury. 20%. It's 0 with Saquon, okay? It's 0 with Derrick Henry. Either he's going to play and fall in the end zone a bunch, or he's going to die. Like, Kyren has other stuff that could happen that is out of range of those two things, and I hate that. Like, I want Rams way back a book. I'm not investing for 17 games at first round draft capital on any Rams. I'm just not doing it.
I understand.
That's it. I mean,
you talked about Sean McVay as if it was Bill Belichick and in the running back room, because as somebody who's a Pats fan and has seen it forever, I'm like, I'm not drafting any Patriots running backs. But I get where you're coming from.
There's a little bit of that here.
Again, half of them that have hit that threshold have repeated. 5 of the 7 that didn't gave you serviceable numbers that you would have been happy with if you draft them at running back 8 overall. So just wanted to point that out there. Hey. I get that you're not in. I am fully invested in, but I do understand where it can be. You're a little tenfold hatty, but I do get where you're coming from. Sure. They're already talking about the punt return stuff. Like, that scares me. When I was looking this up, that's when it came up. I was like, oh my goodness, what is this report real? Is it April 1st? Like, what's going on? And sure enough, it may already be happening upon us.
We didn't even get into all of my deep state conspiracy theories about the Rams. That'll be its own podcast. But anyway, let's take us to the next guy, because let's go.
So Devon Achane, running back 10, he's going at the end of the second round. He's going next for the podcast listeners. Luke is doing his little shimmy dance.
But citation needed. That's not true. Ignore that, folks.
He's going next to Travis Etienne, Derrick Henry, and Isaiah Pacheco. I'm pretty high on. What's your heat level on Devon Achane, running back 10?
All right. So I know I just basically killed Kyren Williams. I'm sorry about that, but okay. What is Herm Edwards' most famous soundbite, Colt? And yes, can it apply to Kyren Williams? Absolutely. Herm Edwards' most famous soundbite, certainly, I mean, you might be too young. His most famous soundbite: you play to win the game. And Devon Achane is the play to win the game pick. Like, obviously, it's he is unconventional. I'm nothing about him being unconventional. He takes the football, he runs, he tries to score touchdowns. Nothing unconventional with that. He's got Raheem Mostert smack dab in front of him. That's a problem for sure. And Tyreek Hill's probably going to go for 1,600 yards receiving again, 1,500 at least, for sure. Yeah, for sure. But Devon Achane ran for, what was it, 7.5 yards per carry?
Almost 8 yards per carry.
I don't even have the number in front of me. And you see that, and your brain immediately is like, well, obviously that's Madden easy mode, rookie mode nonsense. Like, there's nothing about that is repeatable. To the extent that it is repeatable anywhere in space and time in NFL history, it is with these Dolphins, with these running backs right now. With Devon Achane specifically, like Raheem Mostert plenty fast. Devon Achane is different, okay? Like, you can be skeptical of Devon Achane until you turn on the tape, and then things start to become apparent to you. And I mean, yes, of course, there's going to be games where he has potentially like 10 or 12, 9 touches even, like, crazy low numbers. That's possible. And sure, he might be an elevated injury risk. That's possible. is there any game where Devon Achane touches the ball 14, 15 times that you want to be facing him, Colt?
No, I mean, yeah,
absolutely not.
If you see him in your opponent's lineup, it's the same thing as Tyreek Hill on the same team. Like, you just look at him in the lineup, and there's going to be no stacked boxes against this team because you have Jalen Waddle on one side, you got Tyreek Hill on the other. Tua loves to throw it deep, and he certainly will. Achane hopefully gets a few more receptions under his belt and kind of carves out even more of a role there. But yeah, so I'm pretty high on Jalen Wright, not at the point where he's going to be like stealing touches. I just like grabbing him at the end. We're going to be talking about, a little spoiler alert, but our next episode is going to be undrafted gems, kind of sleepers, people who are going absolutely at the end of your drafts that may be going undrafted. But Jalen Wright, just depending on the size of your draft, is one of those guys. And I've been grabbing him just because I want to grab the later one. When I have grabbed Devon Achane, I feel like you have to go running back, or have at least 2 running backs in your first 3 picks. Like, pair him up with that Derrick Henry or the Travis Etienne or the Pacheco, because I don't feel confident with him as my 1, but as my 2, I'm extremely confident because I know when healthy, he's going to go out there and he's going to be a difference maker for my team. Like, he doesn't need to touch the ball a ton, but if he does touch the ball a ton, then it's wheels up and you're winning your league. Like, he'll certainly return his value at that point. But yeah, I have to have him as my running back 2, even though I'm drafting him as my running back 1, where he's going at the end of the second round. So yeah, I'm in, but I gotta get another one.
If it came down the wire tomorrow, came down the pipeline, that Raheem Mostert was done for the season for whatever reason, hopefully he just, decided to, forsake material possessions and move to Tibet. Nothing bad happened. Where is Achane on your board at that point? RB.
I mean, he's probably still the same spot, to be honest, because I'm not factoring in Mostert a ton. Like, I have him and Jalen Wright as cogs to it. Maybe it's a 3-headed monster, and Achane is the guy who will pop when he pops. I mean, all he has to beat out is a guy who is 32 years old and a rookie. We looked at Tank Bigsby last year, Zach Charbonnet. Like, sometimes we put too much emphasis on rookie running backs, and this is a running back class where nobody was really excited. I mean, the first one didn't get drafted off the board until, what was it, like pick 50 with Jonathan Brooks. Like, it took a while for nobody was really hyped for them. Everybody knew that there was no first round talent for any of the running backs, but also the same thing could be said about Jalen Wright. Like, if he comes to fruition, he has to beat out a 32-year-old running back and a guy who had 3 separate injuries last year. He's not a big running back, but I remember it was very early on, maybe like March or April. The pictures were coming out about Achane, and he looked big. Like, if he keeps even 95% of that speed and he's added some weight, like, I haven't looked at any of those reports. I'll probably check that out afterwards, but I remember those photos coming out. He looked really big, and if he can add some size and some durability to his game, I mean, that's just that's amazing.
I like Wright too. I mean, you're rostering him. You're basically like preloading. You're cutting the waiver wire line for when either Mostert or Achane is a DNP or is a game day inactive. You're saying I don't want to deal with that. I just want Wright on my roster right now, which is sensible. I mean, Dolphins, Niners, if whatever, God forbid, something were to happen and Isaac Guerrero or Jordan Mason were to have even a piece of the workload here, you have to try to get that. I mean, this is just. I would not begrudge somebody saying this is the most desirable running offense to have pieces of in the league. Like at market price, Mostert. I mean, if he stays healthy, we're assuming double digit touchdowns. And you can get him in the 7th, 8th round. Like, Right for sure. Achane. I mean, Achane's price got out of control, but there's a reason for that. As long as Achane is healthy, he's going to see double digit touches. It might only be 10 or 12, but he, the Dolphins are not going to say, well, you ran for 8 yards a carry as a rookie. What good are you? Back of the bus with you. He's going to stay involved as long as he's healthy. And if he sees 10 or 12 touches, you are starting that every single week because matchups stop mattering. Honestly, like if he's going against the Jets' number 1 ranked defense, same thing as if he's going against the number 20 ranked defense. He needs one play to make his day, and nobody is a better bet to get it. So yeah, I'm in on Achane, but full disclosure, he is my RB2 in my most bitterly contentious redraft league. So I speak it into existence. All right,
I'm not. I'm not. He's not quite the level where you are with Kyren Williams, but he is my Kyren Williams, if that makes sense. Like I'm not. His range of outcomes. I think there is. I think there is a really low floor possibility if Mostert is hitting and Jalen Reagor hitting, because 3 running backs can't really exist in that offense. Spike games, sure, but we really haven't seen an offense like this where a running back has a spike game every now and then. What would call a full-time role. Like if he's splitting end zone carries, he scares me a lot. I think he can finish as a top 6 running back, but I think he can also finish as like a low 20s, like a running back 20, 24. So
right. And I mean,
range of outcomes is quite wide for me.
Yeah, there probably will be 5 games where he finishes that week outside the top 30 running backs for sure. Yeah. Last bit on this. Jeff Wilson was kind of a significant part of this run game in 2022. He disappeared in 2023. Maybe the same thing could happen for Raheem Mostert in 2024. Not even really get hurt, but Achane and Wright are better. Like, if anybody's fallen out of the rotation for me, it's Mostert. At this age, he doesn't have a lot of mileage, but he played a lot of special teams before he became, a 49ers darling. So, yeah, anyway. All right, take us on to our next running back, Colt. Who do we got?
We got Joe Mixon, running back 15, going in the middle of the 4th round. He's going next to James Cook, Alvin Kamara, and Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker, somebody I feel like nobody's really talked about him all season long, him or Zach Charbonnet, or really any of the Seahawks pieces there. I'll say this about Joe Mixon. Last year, Devin Singletary, when he took over the job from week 10 on, he was the running back 9. And Mixon, even though I'm not a big fan of his and he's highly inefficient, he's better than Devin Singletary. And you add Stephon Diggs to this offense, like they are going to make everything move. Running back 15 feels like a steal. He's not got top 5 upside, I don't think, but if he falls in the end zone enough, I mean, this offense is going to click. So I guess he does have it, but top 3, maybe not. But yeah, running back 15, he's going to return value even if he plays poorly, just because he's going to get so much of the work.
Probably my ideal discount premium or discount elite running back tandem is Josh Jacobs early 3rd, and then you cross your fingers and your toes. You hope there's a bunch of bitter Bengals fans in your league, and you get Mixon at the end of the 4th. There are going to be guys who leave their league this year, leave their draft with CeeDee Lamb. I don't know if you love Drake London, whoever you like the best out of Drake London, Chris Olave, Devontae Adams at the end of the 2nd, Jacobs early 3rd, Joe Mixon late 4th, and they're going to be on cruise control all the way. They're going to win 12 games. So, yeah, I love. Again, you said it perfectly. Like, do we like the player? Not so much at this point, but we like that he has total control of this backfield. I mean, Cam Akers comes out and does a triple spin move, and all of a sudden we're worried about Cam Akers? No, come on. No. He might beat out Dameon Pierce. I mean, Dameon Pierce might be a game day inactive now. But, yeah, Joe Mixon is going to eat the whole cake. I'm sad that we're not – well, we already talked about Josh Jacobs. So, similar argument coming into our field of vision now for Josh Jacobs. It's already been in play for Joe Mixon. 4th round value, that's league-winning value. Double-digit touchdowns. I'd be surprised if he doesn't get it.
Yeah. A couple more running backs here. We got Tony Pollard. He's going off the board as the running back 26, middle of the 7th round. He's going next to, we were talking about Raheem Mostert, Zach Moss, Jalen Warren. So some people that are in timeshares, and that's maybe what Tony Pollard is in. But if you look at the last preseason game, if you care about snap counts with the first team offense, which I think that's one of the most rewarding things about preseason, besides finding those people who are going to make the roster, the Jordan Whittingtons and the Carson Steeles of the world. I mean, he got the, like I said, he got the bulk of the touches with the first team. So that's exactly what you're going to see. I think, Tajay Spears is going to be sprinkled in, but Pollard, I mean, he's going to return value as the running back 26. I mean, Jerome Ford was the running back 26 last season, and he was a volume guy. We were just talking about him where he's rarely winning you weeks, but he's averaging 11 points per game. Like it's not that hard to get back that value. What does this offense do? If Will Levis is really good and this offense starts clicking, because we see it every year, an offense just like goes from 0 to hero, like with, the Houston Texans last season. If that happens, then it just wheels up for him. But this is closer to his floor than anywhere close to his ceiling.
So I did an article a few days ago on the website about favorite ADP values, and I took like whatever 20 guys that are going at various parts of the board and said this is a guy who, for where he's going right now, there's a very small set of scenarios, small set of potential outcomes where he hits returns below this ADP value, assuming he stays healthy. There's a larger range of outcomes that makes sense to me where he beats his ADP. Tony Pollard is another guy like that, where at RB 26, middle of the 7th, running backs, that's right where running backs, you look around all of a sudden, oh my God, the best running back left is Dylan Lobby. Oh my God. So no disrespect to Dylan Lobby, pride of University of New Hampshire. But you tell me, Colt, like for where he's going, RB 26, middle of the 7th, is it not baked in at that price that the Titans are going to be like a bottom 6, bottom 8 offense? What if they're not?
Exactly.
What if they're not?
And you said it perfectly. Like, you want to kind of min-max. Like, what is his minimum outcome? Like, here we're drafting him at 26. What is the minimum he can end as? Is that the running back 30? Is that the running back 35? What's the max? Is that running back 10 or 12? Like, if you can, I think he's being drafted closer to his floor than a ceiling. So it's a player I would be comfortable drafting, knowing that he has the upside. But if I'm drafting him and I get the running back 26, I'm also happy. Like, obviously I want more, but middle of the 7th round, I think you're getting a great value, and running backs don't grow on trees at that point.
DeAndre Swift is going a round or two earlier. There's no compelling argument that he should beat Tony Pollard in fantasy in per week production. So he's cheaper. DeAndre Swift, I think you could almost say. Austin Eckler, RB 33, going middle of the 8th. He's going around running backs like Nick Chubb, which that's hard to even include because obviously he's choose your adventure there. Write your fan fiction about Chubb getting the key to the city at the end of the season. Javonte Williams, Jonathan Brooks, and his teammate Brian Robinson. What do you think, Colt?
I like Brian Robinson a lot more. It's been nothing but hype about him when you do hear about it. Yeah. Obviously, if you're in a PPR league, maybe that. I mean, we saw Antonio Gibson last season in the same Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson role, and Brian Robinson was surprisingly a good pass catcher, which wasn't his profile coming out of college. There, I think Alabama, and it was just like, it's funny because when you listen to the reports from Cliff Kingsbury, he's like, I didn't even watch Austin Eckler last year. I just was like, wow, this guy's available on the waivers. Let's go get him. And so Austin Eckler, if you watched him at all last season, didn't look great.
It was rough.
I think he's a great value. I like his teammate better. I would take him over Nick Chubb, but even Javonte Williams. I take Austin Eckler over Jonathan Brooks, but Brian Robinson's the guy for me. And as you mentioned, they want to establish it. If they do, in fact, want to establish it, then Eckler's going to be a part of that.
Real quick, the Broncos cut Samaje Perine. And this is a team that threw to the running backs more than any other team in the NFL last year. Mm-hmm. Who do you think benefits in terms of receiving involvement in the offense more, Javonte or Jaleel McLaughlin, or is it kind of a push?
Kind of a push. I mean, if Javonte is that guy that they think he can be, but it doesn't really matter. Sean Payton, Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, right? Maybe they have that kind of thing. I'm not trying to compare Jaleel McLaughlin to Alvin Kamara, but he's had a role. And if you look back, he's had spike weeks, especially in PPR leagues. So probably a little bit more of a bump for McLaughlin, but Javonte should see some work that way too.
I'm not sure where to go yet there either, but Perine getting out of the way is good for both of them, frankly.
Definitely.
At ADP, they both get a lot more attractive. I love Brian Robinson too. He's great. He is a capable receiver. He had like a 100-yard receiving day against the Seahawks last year. He had like a 50-yard touchdown that was a big part of that. But his receiving chops were definitely better than advertised coming out of Alabama. But Najee Harris is a fine receiving running back in his own right, and Jaylen Warren came in and buried him anyway because he was better at it. Austin Eckler is going to take, assuming that he's on the field. That's the thing here is like, do we take the Commanders at their word that Austin Eckler is going to be meaningfully involved in the offense? I do. I believe Dan Quinn is a veteran deference operation. He doesn't want the tie to go to the rookies. He wants the tie to go to leaders. And he's a rah locker room type of guy for sure. That's what made the Dallas defense so good during his run here in Dallas. If Austin Eckler is not cooked, he can win you your league at this price. If he's not cooked, All he has to do, all he has to do is not be cooked, which he might be. He might. I'm not going to say he couldn't be. I saw the tape. I saw him play last year too. If he had a high ankle sprain early in the year, we never saw the real Austin Eckler again after that. Who's to say? If he is not cooked, and the training camp clips, whatever footage that I've seen is inconclusive, hasn't been much, inconclusive, he can win you your league. He can catch. This is a guy who can catch 70 balls almost at will. He needs to see the field a fair amount. But they just got rid of Dotson. They already didn't have great receivers. Now, they need somebody to step up. They might need Zach Ertz to catch 65 balls. Somebody's got to catch something. And maybe Daniels doesn't even, get much past 3,000 yards passing. Eckler is a home run swing at this price where he could give you third, fourth round value. If the Commanders make it a real two-headed attack on the grid, because Brian Robinson's not going away. Yeah, Brian Robinson is going to be involved for sure. Eckler was an elite short yardage guy near the goal line in his 2021, 22 heyday in LA. He could flop. He could burn you. But in the 8th, you know what? I'll swing for the fences there. I will. As my RB3, yeah.
Yeah, if you have conviction, swing for the fences with him. I don't think it's going to be, one, a good offense. Two, Brian Robinson's better than Joshua Kelly and Isaiah Spiller, who just got cut today. And it just, the Chargers offense, while they weren't winning a lot of games, they were scoring a lot of points and moving the ball with, Staley, which I saw your comment about that on Twitter. I laughed at that pretty hard. But yeah, Austin Eckler, I don't know if he's a league winner. If in a PPR league, I think he could certainly return value at running back 33. Sure. Like I said, Brian Robinson should be the red zone guy. And I don't expect the offense to make that leap. But if they do, and if Austin Eckler is not cooked, as you mentioned, then yeah, he's looking good.
This has been the Fantasy Index Podcast. For more great content, premium rankings, and cheat sheets, head over to fantasyindex.com